On today's show, we're talking all about Avengers Infinity War. There was some news that dropped about James Gunn's involvement in this film. There was also a slew of new posters breaking down the characters of the movie. We're going to go into those, talk about what we gleaned from them, and I got a really cool fan question about the MCU in general. So it's all Avengers Infinity War today. We're doing the dope list, of course, as well. This is the Nerdy News Rundown, your daily dose for nerdy news. I'm your host, Josh, and we're broadcasting out of Uncanny in the King of Prussia Mall. Let's get this show started. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Thursday edition of the show. I hope you're having a good day, and I hope you've been having a good week. I want to, of course, shout out Uncanny for sponsoring the show. They are awesome and a big part of what I'm doing with this channel, so thanks to them. Now, let's get right into the first topic of the day. This has to do with Avengers Infinity War, and specifically a story about James Gunn writing dialogue for the Guardians in the movie. So this story was actually broke by Super Bros Movies, which, you know, I've actually never heard of before this show. So good job, guys. But apparently Dave Bautista was speaking at a Comic-Con recently and said that James Gunn actually worked on a lot of the dialogue for the Guardians in the upcoming Avengers Infinity War movie. Now, this news actually coincides with a bit of news we found out months ago where the Russo brothers said they actually collaborated with multiple directors and writers on this project. Specifically, they were talking about Ryan Coogler and James Gunn. As a fan, I'm pretty pumped about this. I mean, one of the big questions we have about Avengers Infinity War is like, how is this going to work in general? You've got, what, 70 heroes or something like that? You've got the Guardians, you've got the Avengers, you've got Thanos, you've got Black Panther and Wakanda. You've got all of these different characters and all of these different personalities. So how are you going to make this gel together? It's refreshing to hear that the Russo brothers went to James Gunn and asked him about how certain characters would say dialogue in the movie, because you want it to feel authentic. What James Gunn established with the Guardians of the Galaxy in general is its own thing. It is very specific, and it would feel a little bit odd if they were to act in a way that sort of negated the way we thought they would act from the original movies. Now, we've seen very little of how the Guardians are interacting in the promotional material, but it all feels pretty spot on. I mean, from the very intro shot where they meet up with Thor, to where Groot is talking to Star-Lord, to where Star-Lord is talking to Tony Stark, it all seems pretty on point. I'm really glad that they got James Gunn to come in and work on some of the dialogue for this movie. I mean, he's also an executive producer on the next two Avengers movies, and what he's done with Guardians is crazy and sort of its own franchise, which he'll be doing probably for a long time to come. On top of all of that, James Gunn is actually a hardcore nerd. He knows these characters from the comic books, so it's great to have a guy like that in the creative fold. To me, this just speaks, again, very highly of the process they have over at Marvel Studios. It reminds me a lot of what they do at Pixar, and they really make movies sort of by committee. They bring in multiple writers, they have a writer's room, various different directors, people looking at this thing and working as a unit to make the best movie possible. In general, one of the things that Marvel's done that other studios haven't been able to replicate is that they make their standalone movies specific, and they have their own vibe and story and arc, and yet they all feel like they fit into this connective world that is the MCU. This is an incredibly difficult thing to pull off. I give a lot of props to Kevin Feige and his team. He's somehow found a balance to allow filmmakers to make their film, but also pulling them back on the reins and making changes when needed to have this cohesive vibe for the whole thing. This kind of ties into the fan question that I'm going to address later on in the show, but it's absolutely crazy, guys, to think of what Marvel has been able to do. And when I heard this news about James Gunn coming in, I was like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. This is the Marvel formula. James knows those characters. Let's get it right. Let's not have any confusion. Let's not have any issues. We want the fans of the Guardians movies to accept the version of the Guardians we have in this Avengers movie. It's so important to that process. So those are just some of my thoughts. That's the news out there. Dave Bautista didn't really speak too much more about what was going on in the creative process, but if you've been following Marvel and what they do behind the scenes, this shouldn't really come as a surprise. It's just one more reason I'm excited for this movie. It's one more reason why Marvel continues to do all of the right things, and it's one more reason why we're probably never going to get something as crazy as the MCU ever again in cinema. So with all of that said, that's the story out there. I want to know what you guys think. What do you think about James Gunn writing dialogue for the characters in the film? What do you think about the Russo brothers being so collaborative with the other creators in the MCU? And in general, I mean, like, what are your thoughts about the way the MCU operates, how they do things creatively over there? It's pretty phenomenal, especially when you juxtapose it against some of the other studios like Warner Brothers and DC. So let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. All right, let's get into our second topic of the day. This all has to do with the slew of new character posters that came out yesterday for Avengers Infinity War. And I know what you're thinking. Josh, are you really going to dedicate a whole part of the show to going over a few posters? You're goddamn right I am. So in general, these posters cover all of the different characters we expect to see in Avengers Infinity War. I mean, they look sleek, they look really cool, they're of course high res, and they just look like amazing pieces of art. It's really, really cool. All of the posters, all the promotional stuff, all the stuff we've been getting for this film all looks super clean and super good. Now, as far as what actually sticks out to me, there are a couple of posters specifically that I think give us little hints at stuff, or just in general are super cool to look at. The first one is War Machine, and if you look at this armor, this is clearly new War Machine armor. It looks sleek. It's got new lights, kind of depicting that it's a new upgrade for him. Even the skin on top of the armor looks a little bit different, got some sort of camouflage stuff going on there. Now, the big question with this suit is, how advanced is this? Is this sort of nanotech that Tony is using as well? Does this perhaps come out of the back brace that helps War Machine actually be able to walk? Or is it just a new set of armor that's very similar to his old armor? I mean, either way, it looks like a big upgrade. Probably has more weapons, more capacity, more power. It looks super sleek. Another poster that stuck out to me was the Winter Soldier, or I think White Wolf, which he'll be known as in the film. And the reason this is so cool is because we get a really nice look at the new vibranium arm that Bucky is going to be rocking. I mean, this thing is going to be so strong and so powerful, and it just looks beautiful in this shot. I mean, the way this thing is shining, getting the purple light bouncing off it, amazing. So I'm super excited to see Bucky in this movie. I think he's going to play a major role, and I think he's actually a lock for being the next Captain America. But this poster definitely stuck out to me. Love the look of this new vibranium arm. The other poster that jumped out to me was, of course, Spider-Man. We get a look at sort of the Iron Spider armor that he's going to be rocking in Avengers Infinity War. And just like with War Machine, a lot of questions come with this. I mean, is this armor coming out of some part? Is it nanotechnology just like Tony's, or does it sort of come on in pieces? Now, in the trailer, we see that shot of Spider-Man being on the ship that Thanos has, and he's going up into the atmosphere, and he looks frightened. He looks like he's going to die. We know that then Iron Man goes to go help him and save him. Is this the moment where he gives him that suit? Did the suit always exist within the already Tony Stark tech suit that he had been using since Civil War? I mean, there's a lot of questions here, but either way, we get a look at what is going on with the Iron Spider suit. He's got these gauntlet type things which might work to shoot sort of projectiles, or maybe some kind of a hand-to-hand combat weapon like a knife or something like that. We know that we've seen the prongs on the back of the suit, in which the legs or the extra arms from the suit are going to come out. That's going to be really, really cool. But either way, it just looks super slick. I'm a big fan of the Iron Spider. I know some people are like, what, Spider-Man's not cool enough on his own. He needs Tony Stark tech. I'm like, yo, forget all that noise. This suit looks dope. I'm incredibly excited, so that's what jumps off to me. Other than that, you just kind of get your standard look at characters. They look, you know, beautiful. They look high res. They look powerful, but not too much to glean other than that. So that's all I wanted to talk about when it comes to the posters. What did you think of these posters? Do you think there's something I missed? Is there a piece of information out there that, you know, is really, really important? Or do they just look super dope and just the latest in the awesomeness that is the Infinity War promotion? Whatever your thoughts, let me know in the comment section below. All right, it's time for the dope list. This is just part of the show where I rapid fire a bunch of dope little news bits that came out the following day that you may have missed. Number one on the list has to do with the Batman movie. There was a rumor that started and was shut down all in one day. This had to do with Matt Reeves' Batman film possibly focusing on the death of Jason Todd. This was, of course, teased in Batman v Superman and in Suicide Squad slightly, and a lot of fans thought this would be a good way for the new Batman film to go. Explain Robin, explain Jason Todd, and explain his death at the Joker's hands. Apparently, though, that is not going to be the case, so maybe you missed that rumor. You don't have to worry about it. It's squashed. Maybe you thought that rumor was true. It's not. Next on the dope list is also sort of Batman related. This has to do with Joe Manganiello actually talking about Deathstroke in the DC films. Now you'll remember Deathstroke was going to be the original villain of the Batman movie, but this was back when Ben Affleck was going to write and direct it himself. That's no longer the case, and people were wondering what's going on with Deathstroke. Then we got an announcement that they're working on a Deathstroke movie that is said to be helmed by the director of The Raid. That just sounds plain old awesome to me, but we haven't heard much since that announcement. Well, Manganiello was on the red carpet for the world premiere of the Rampage movie, and he was asked about the Deathstroke movie, and he gave the answer that, yeah, it's still in development. It should still be happening. Now, we talk a lot about DC movies on this show and how you can't really take anything that these actors, directors, or producers say, you know, without a grain of salt, because they've lied to us and misled us so many times before. However, that is the news out there. The movie is not dead. It should still happen. I want to see a Deathstroke movie, especially if the guy from The Raid directs it. Last bit of news on the dope list has to do with Luke Cage Season 2. They released a photograph of Danny Rand and Luke Cage side by side. Apparently, we are going to be getting that Iron Fist and Power Man team up in Luke Cage Season 2. This seems really, really cool. I hope they go heroes for hire, and I actually love Danny and Luke together, not just in the comics, but in Defenders. It was one of the best parts of that series, so I'm super happy that they're playing off of that in Luke Cage Season 2. I liked Luke Cage Season 1, but there's a twist that happens in the middle of the series that really killed it for me, and I thought the back half of the season really, really dragged. So anything to punch up Season 2 and give it more excitement, including adding a little Iron Fist, I am completely down with that. So that's the dope list. Guys, let me know what you think about all of those stories in the comments section below. Are you excited about the Batman film? Are you excited about a Deathstroke movie? And what do you think about Power Fist and Iron Man teaming up in Luke Cage Season 2? All right, guys, I want to end the show by going over a fan question that I received yesterday. This came in from Vance Wallace, and I thought it was a really interesting question, something I wanted to sort of talk about. He said that the MCU and what they've done is so crazy, but you see a lot of other studios trying to build a shared universe, trying to push this shared universe idea. And so Vance's question is, did the success of the MCU hurt other movies? I think this is a brilliant question, and the short answer is yes, but the long answer is sort of. So the success of the MCU was definitely something sort of unprecedented and something that other people wanted to replicate. But the real problem and the reason that these other movies got hurt was because of like the Hollywood way of approaching these problems. Hollywood just looks at stuff and takes it at face value. So you'll remember after Deadpool 1, James Gunn even came out on Twitter and said, I'm hoping that Hollywood learns the correct lesson from Deadpool and not the wrong one. And what he was really talking about was the fact that all of these studios might just want to make R-rated superhero movies because they think that that is what made Deadpool a success. Similarly, if you look at something like Wonder Woman, the Hollywood formula of approaching that might be, hey, female-led superhero movies are the way to go. Let's do that. And they do something like that. Now, the problem with this is it's never what it is on the surface level. The reason that Marvel films work the way that they do has to do with the leadership team, the vision that they have, and just the way that the directors are able to cooperate within that system. Kevin Feige worked on 13 Marvel movies before he ever got his position at Marvel. So he saw what worked, he saw what didn't work in these movies. And so leadership like that, vision and cooperation is what actually made them successful. Now, when you look at things like the DC films, they don't have really any of that. All they had was this idea of a shared universe, and they thought that would be enough to propel the success forward. It's the same thing with that Monsters universe that they tried to do with that Tom Cruise Mummy movie. They just simply thought that the idea of a shared universe was good enough to be the thing that would make them win. It's never that simple, but Hollywood likes easy to digest information. They just want to know what will work, reverse engineer it, pump it out, and make a bunch of money. So I appreciate the question, Vance. It's an interesting problem because I would say the success of the MCU did maybe hurt other movies, but maybe not because these other movies were trying to replicate it, but because it sort of created this new expectation for blockbusters and movies in general. I could probably go on and talk about this for a whole video on itself, and maybe I will someday, but I'm going to leave the question there for now. Thank you very much for the question. If you have a question you want me to talk about on the show, drop it in the comments section here, and I'll cover it on tomorrow's show or on a show later down the line. Now, guys, before I get out of here today, I want to bring up just a couple changes that are going to be happening to this show in the next couple of weeks. I'm actually moving at the end of the month, and there's just like a ton of stuff going on in my personal life, and so I'm actually not going to be doing the show out of Uncanny 5 days a week for at least the next couple of weeks. I think I'm going to still come in on Wednesdays to do it for Comic Book Day, but I'm actually going to be recording the show from home most of the days. But I'm gonna really put a lot of energy and focus into making the show great, doing a lot of writing for the show, a lot of editing. I'm dedicated to making this thing really, really entertaining for all of you guys and giving you the information that you want. So that's pretty much it. Just wanted to warn you, next week when I'm at my house doing the show, everything's cool. I still have a great relationship with Uncanny, and we're gonna be doing some awesome stuff moving forward. But the show itself might just go back to my house for the majority of the week. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video. Guys, I'm in this box again. I'm trapped in this box. This means it's the end of the video. That means there's links. That means you have to click them. If you don't click them, I'll be trapped in this box forever.